Most days I make something that is like a poem. I might write it, I might sing it, I might videotape it, record it, I might draw it on a page, and if I draw it on a page, it might look like a drawing, but it's somehow written. Somehow there's language in it, and I call it a rawing. Or, if it's particularly like this, I call it a fidget glyph. And this is a weeks of fidget glyphs, starting on Monday. Some of these have words. Some of the words have a clear meaning. Some of them have no meaning at all. And I keep track of them. I keep track of when they were made and where they were made and what sequence they fall in during the day and what they're called, in case sometime later on I can't quite myself interpret what these letters are. Sometimes they seem like a simple drawing by someone who doesn't draw in any sophisticated way, who merely draws in a very organized way, but without enough control so that there's a little bend where there shouldn't be a bend. Sometimes you can read them out, the rest, the sleep, the scene, except something tells you you can't really read them out. Sometimes I give up on them. Sometimes they remind me of a song. But they're held together by some sort of sense of writing and some sort of sense of how the language is constructed in some instance, some single instance. Sometimes you see recognizable letters, but enhanced somehow. Sometimes the meaning seems possibly clear and possibly a joke. Sometimes the words are readable, but you don't know what molge, wange, knud, and prodel mean. Sometimes the page is hard to move, and you see how something is abandoned, and it's made into something else. Abandoned, and this tiny little squib of an idea remains. Sometimes they use words you might not know, but the word has meaning. Maybe a sequence, maybe visual. There are things that control me. The idea of addition, adding things onto it, hooks, curves, and curves against rectilinear shapes. Sometimes the word, however imagined, is so distant you don't want to believe that somebody thinks it's a poem. Sometimes it's a cartoon. Some of them more disturbing than others. Sometimes I forget to cross out what really isn't part of it. Or I want you to focus merely on a clump of letters and the shapes that hold it together. Sometimes it is a clear and readable phrase, though it might take a second for you to see how. Sometimes they have interesting names, like A with penis. Sometimes their sense of language is a sense of wordlessness and endings. And sometimes the words that are there are interesting, but strange and maybe uninterpretable. Quilper, for instance. And sometimes, eventually, it all ends.